Hello. This training session is going to be on how to complete a closeout of a grant project within the grants management system. We're currently in November of 2015, and most of the federal programs from the 14-15 school year have been completed. And at this time, it's appropriate to go into the grants management system and indicate that you have submitted all reimbursement requests and that there are no further reimbursement requests to be processed this year. And at that point, the system can deal with any unexpended funds that you may have previously budgeted or been allocated. I'm going to step through an example of that in a test environment right now. You should be able to see the main GMS logon page, and most of you are familiar with the logon process. I'm going to switch over to a different browser right now that shows after you've logged into the system and you've actually, here on the menu list, click on the Access Select link, just like you would to get into the reimbursement requests or into the applications. Right now, I'm going to work with a district from FY15. You're going to have to change from 16 back to 15, and I'm going to simulate the closing of their Perkins program. They had amendments. This particular district or LEA had amendments that were processed, and they're in final approved status. I'm going to click on the Payments button right now, and it'll take us into the Payments summary web page that most of you have seen before. This particular organization had $66,000 allocated in Perkins funds. They had $21,000 reallocated to them by the Perkins Program Office, had a total of $88,000 available, and they had budgeted that full amount. They have claimed all but 22 cents, which is why there's 22 cents remaining in the balance of this particular LEA's project. But we still want to go ahead and close it out and say, listen, we're not going to be claiming that 22 cents. Whether it's 22 cents or $22,000, the process is exactly the same. Down here, you'll see a line appearing that says Final Closeout Status, and that'll tell us if the closeout for this program has been submitted, has been approved, or in this case where there is no status, that means a closeout has not yet been created. This button, which normally takes us to the reimbursement request menu here, is also going to take us to the section of the system where closeouts can be initiated. Now, you'll notice that previously there was only a section here on the page that listed all the reimbursement requests that your LEA had created. You could create new requests, you could open requests, delete requests that weren't submitted. However, there's now a second section on this page called the Closeout Report section, which I've just highlighted, and that Closeout Report has the same type of options: create, open, delete, a review summary. Now, before we begin the closeout process, it's important that all of the reimbursement requests or claims for FY14 for the 2015 year have been completely processed, that those that have been submitted have been approved and are paid by SOAR, and that the funds have reached your LEA. We can't allow closeout to occur if there are still some claims that are in the process of being paid, because that would alter the amount of unexpended funds that your LEA has to be paid, or could be carried forward into the next year. So right now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click this Create Closeout Report button, which will do exactly that. It will create that one closeout report. And the first thing you're going to see is an error message display at the top. And it's going to say, Save Not Allowed. We created the closeout report, but we're also telling you you cannot submit a closeout report while there are reimbursement requests outstanding. And those reimbursement requests, and what that's talking about is when I go back to the menu here, you'll notice that reimbursement request number 5 is in not submitted status. If you were to submit a closeout right now and then turn around and submit a reimbursement request, it would alter the amount of funds that you had available that the closeout process should be sending forward into the subsequent year, assuming that this is a program that allows that kind of closeout, but carryover processing. So what I'm going to do right now, because reimbursement request number 5 is not submitted, I can either go through the process of submitting it, waiting for it to be approved and paid by OSCE, paid by SOAR, and once that's reached the final approved status and it's also been paid, then I can work on my closeout process. So the alternative, in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that closeout report to illustrate that process. And now, let's say that reimbursement request number 5 was created in error. It's not something that I really need to submit to OSSI. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and I'm going to delete this request. Please be very careful. It really did delete that, and if that was a claim you were intending to submit, it's now gone. So please don't use that delete button lightly. With all of the claims from FY15 for this program now in approved status and they've been paid by SOAR, now I can come create a closeout report again, and this time I will not get that same message here that said you've got a claim that's not submitted. There may be other claims that you have that are submitted and approved but not yet paid by SOAR. You'll still see warning messages to let you know, listen, you may not be paid by SOAR yet because we can't presume that SOAR will pay those claims. That's why we wait for the warrant numbers to come back from SOAR to tell us that, yes, you've really been paid. Now, for the purposes of this example, we've selected a program that had a rather simple budget. In Perkins, this particular organization budgeted to instruction. They had $26,000 in salaries and benefits, $18,000 in professional services, and $42,000 worth of equipment. And as you look down into this next section of the page where the individual line items are, this is the one piece that you'll need to fill out, this expenditure amount column. What we're basically saying is that your budget was $26,800 for salaries and instructional salaries, and we've paid you $26,800. Now we're asking you, how much have you really spent? Now, theoretically, that's the exact same number as what you submitted because you're getting that from your payroll records. And if that is indeed the correct amount, you don't need to do anything here. However, let's do a for instance. Under equipment, for example, you budgeted $42,967, and you've been paid that much as well. The question becomes, though, maybe you received a $500 rebate check for some piece of equipment, and those are funds that you should not have been reimbursed for. What I can do is actually change this amount to take that $500 out, and that will reflect that delta processing right there. As soon as I hit save, you'll see some highlighting appear on that page. This particular program did not elect to budget indirect costs, so there's nothing for you to fill in here. It's important to understand you'll only see lines for as many cells as you actually have been paid funds over the course of the program year. You'll notice there's an expenditure period end date, and this process is capable of doing mid-year reporting, but right now at this point in time at OSSI, we're only capturing that information at the end of the year. The end of the federal program in this case was September 30th, so we want you to talk about only expenditures that have been incurred by September 30th. You can still be paid for them here over the remainder of the calendar year, but we can't claim any expenditure that was incurred after October 1st. If you need to put in comments such as equipment expenditure reduced due to rebate of $500, that's where you can communicate that information to OSSI there. I'm going to go ahead and click the Save Page button. And when I do that, you'll notice that this cell is now highlighted in yellow, the one that I just entered that amount into. And the purpose is to call attention to the fact that I have said that the amount that I've actually paid is different than the amount that OSSI has reimbursed me for. So the reviewers will notice that and be able to focus on, okay, why is there a delta there? Now, in this case, what's actually happening is this district has, or this LEA has $500 of funds that it shouldn't have. And in that case, when the closeout process occurs, there's still 22 cents worth of unexpended funds that will either be released back to the OSSI as an agency if the program doesn't allow carryover, or they will be forwarded as carryover onto the FY16 fund distribution webpage. But the point is that there's now $500 that they have, and most likely that will need to be processed in the form of a refund. The program office, working with the Office of Grants Management and Compliance, will work with the LEAs who find themselves in this case to work out the details of how those refunds should be performed. But just as I put in this situation where there's a $500 refund, I could have said I was underpaid by $500, for example, because I forgot to submit a claim for one last item. the system, if this closeout request is approved, will generate a payment just the same way a reimbursement request does. So I could have put, for example, that 22 cents that we budgeted over here that we weren't actually paid. If I change that amount to include that 22 cents, that would force a 22-cent payment to occur as it relates to that particular line item. So I've got 22 cents going to the district here, $500 that the district owes me. What's really going to happen behind the scenes is you're talking about a $499.78 refund that is owed. And again, you have some reminder messages up here that you've said, this is my final report, and that's what this checkbox says. We are pre-selecting that checkbox, and you want to make sure that it's checked before you submit. But the point is, this funds on hand indicates that this LEA needs to get $499.78 back to OSSI. If I had simply said, all right, you know, there was no $500 rebate, and I'm going to take that $500 delta out here and put in $42,967 and save that. Now at this time, there's no highlighting because those numbers are the same. And if you scroll down here, you'll see that the balance that's due to the LEA is 22 cents. And the point is that we will send you a payment for 22 cents. And again, I mentioned before, this could be $22,000. The point is that this is the difference between how much your LEA has actually expended and how much your OSSI has actually paid you. If I were to proceed with this, that would have fully expended the budget and there would be no carryover into FY16. Just as you can on reimbursement requests, you can browse into your network or onto your hard drive of your computer and upload files that substantiate those claims, and those uploaded files will display here. Once you've completed that process and hit Save Page, you'll get some reminder messages, but the point is you can ultimately click the button that says, I want to submit this closeout report to OSSI. As that submission has been completed, you'll see the message, this request has been submitted. No more updates will be saved. This is your final report, and only actual expenditures were allowed. Point is, now when I go back to the menu of reimbursement requests and closeouts, you'll see that here's closeout report number 1, and yes, it's a final report. It was dated today, submitted today, and it's waiting for OSSI to review it. As OSSI completes the review, just the same way that they review claims, you'd receive a payment in this case for 22 cents as soon as it was approved. If there were carryover available, where that would become visible to you is on, if I go back to the Access Select page here, and now instead of looking at 2015, I would come into 2016 for Perkins. This will take a second because I'm running in a test environment. When I open up, you'll notice that the original application for Perkins in 2016 is submitted for review. We're not going to show carryover had it existed on that funding distribution page of a submitted application, because at the time that application was submitted, the carryover didn't exist. However, or rollover. However, when you create an amendment number 1, if there was carryover, you'll see those funds being added in right here. Again, not all programs handle carryover the same. IDEA, for example, will allow up to 100% carryover. Title I has some unique rules where you can only carry over 15% of your funds, presuming you have at least $50,000. There are also rules that allow you to get waivers to exceed that 15% in Title I's case. Perkins, as a general rule, does not allow carryover. Those funds revert back to the state, but in many cases those funds will be reallocated to districts or LEAs for use in future years, depending on decisions made by the program office. So ultimately, as carryover does become available, it will be visible to you on your subsequent year's application in this cell that I've highlighted right now. Then you can complete the amendment to your budget, or if this application hadn't been submitted, I'd be able to enhance that budget right then and there to add in additional activities and dollars on my budget pages to incorporate that carryover amount. That pretty much brings us back to the end of this discussion. There's a training manual that will be available on the main GMS logon page. You should be able to see that here in the training section. as soon as we bring this online here during the week of November approximately November 17th or 18th. Thank you very much.